Ever imagine yourself at a Victorian seance, the air thick with anticipation, waiting for a message from beyond?
Hmm, sounds intriguing.
Well, get ready to dive into the world of mind reading, but 1907 style.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Where are we headed with this?
Today, we're uncovering practical mind reading.
Practical mind reading. Who wrote that?
That would be William Walker Atkinson.
Interesting. So forget your crystal balls and Ouija boards?
Exactly. This deep dive is all about harnessing the power of the mind, or at least that was the idea back then.
The power of the mind, huh? You know, it might surprise you to know that Atkinson's book, it wasn't some dusty esoteric tome hidden away in the back shelves of occult libraries.
Oh,
Atkinson, he was writing during a time when, believe it or not, prominent scientists were genuinely exploring the possibility of telepathy.
telepathy, you mean like the transmission of thoughts directly from one mind to another?
Exactly. Direct mind-to-mind communication. That was the idea.
Okay, so let's unpack this whole telepathy craze a bit. Atkinson name drops some pretty big names from the scientific world in his book, right?
He does, actually. I mean, we're talking William James, the father of American psychology. We're talking about the big leagues here, Harvard. And then across the pond, you've got Sir William Crookes, president of the esteemed Royal Society.
Wow, these weren't exactly fringe thinkers.
No, not at all. These were some of the leading scientific minds of their time.
So we're talking about a time when the lines between, I don't know, what we might consider science and, well, maybe the paranormal were a little blurry.
Absolutely. The late 19th, early 20th century, it was a time of just incredible scientific upheaval and discovery. Think about it. X-rays, radioactivity, the electron. These were world-altering breakthroughs that were fundamentally changing how people understood the universe.
Yeah.
And in the middle of all this, the brain remained this final frontier of science, ripe for exploration.
It's like the Wild West of scientific inquiry,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Anything seemed possible.
So in an era where the invisible became visible, I mean, we're talking radiation, radio waves, it's no wonder that people like Crookes started to draw parallels between those discoveries and the mysteries of the mind.
Precisely. Crookes, in particular, he was really captivated by this idea that thoughts might travel in waves, similar to the electromagnetic waves that had just been discovered.
So, like, our thoughts could be transmitted through the ether, almost like radio waves.
That was the thinking. He even compared the human brain to a coherer, a device used in early wireless telegraphy. It's a fascinating comparison, really.
It really is. I mean, that's mind-blowing even now. Like, suddenly we could send messages across continents instantly. And Crookes was thinking maybe our brains could do the same thing with thoughts.
It certainly captured the imagination of the time, but it's important to remember that while Crookes was a brilliant scientist, his interest in the paranormal, including telepathy, well, it placed him on the fringes of the scientific establishment.
So he was kind of a scientific rebel, pushing the boundaries of what was considered acceptable research.
Yeah, you could definitely say that. And yet, his influence can't be ignored. Crookes brought serious scientific credibility and a touch of controversy, let's be honest, to the study of telepathy. And that paved the way for others like Atkinson to really delve into these uncharted territories of the mind.
It's incredible to think about, over 100 years ago, people were drawing these parallels between like the cutting edge technology of their day, the telegraph, wireless communication, and the mysteries of the human brain. But I mean, how much did scientists at the time actually know about how the brain worked? Were they anywhere close to understanding neurons, synapses, all of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It really highlights just how much neuroscience has advanced since Atkinson's time. I mean, imagine trying to build a computer, but you don't know anything about circuits or electricity.
Whoa, okay, I see where you're going with this.
That's essentially what it was like back then. They knew the brain was involved in, like, thoughts, sensations, and all that, but the intricate workings, the electrical impulses, the chemical messages, all of that was still largely a mystery.
So they had like a very basic understanding of the hardware, but were completely in the dark about the software running it all.
Exactly. It's actually incredible to think that just a few decades after Atkinson published his Practical Mind Reading, scientists would go on to make these groundbreaking discoveries that would completely revolutionize our understanding of the brain.
Like what? What kinds of discoveries?
Well, you think about the 1950s, that's when scientists discovered the structure of DNA,
Right.
Which revealed the genetic blueprint that shapes our brains and our bodies. And then a couple decades later, in the 1970s, you have these brain imaging techniques, fMRI, emerging. And those allowed us to actually see brain activity happening in real time.
It's wild how quickly our understanding of the brain just exploded in just a few short decades. But okay, let's get back to Atkinson. Even with this very limited understanding of the brain, he still lays out all these techniques for, harnessing the mind's power. What are some of the things he suggests for, getting those telepathic signals flowing?
Right. So this is where Atkinson's concept of rapport conditions comes into play. He really believed that for successful mind reading to occur, you needed a kind of mental alignment between the person sending the thought, what he calls the transmitter, and the person receiving it, the receiver.
So it's like they need to be on the same wavelength, mentally speaking.
Yeah.
Gotcha. But how do you even begin to create that kind of connection?
Well, Atkinson, he placed a lot of emphasis on focused breathing. He even suggests specific counting patterns for the transmitter and receiver to synchronize their breath. Almost like a meditation exercise, really.
Seriously, just breathe and sync, and suddenly you're reading each other's minds. It sounds almost too easy.
It does sound a bit simplistic to our modern ears, right? But what's really interesting is that, unknowingly, Atkinson might have actually stumbled onto something with these breathing exercises. We might not be able to achieve telepathy, but modern science has shown that focused breathing can have some really powerful effects on the brain and the body. Think about practices like meditation, mindfulness. Those often incorporate controlled breathing, right?
Right. You're totally right. I've heard that focused breathing can help, like calm your nerves, reduce stress, even improve focus.
Exactly. We now know that this type of breathing can actually trigger physiological changes in the body, slowing down your heart rate, lowering your blood pressure. So even though his theories about telepathy might seem, I don't know, a bit out there to us now, you have to admit, he was onto something with the power of focused breathing, something that we're still exploring and benefiting from today.
Okay, so maybe there's a method to Atkinson's breathing madness, but what about the actual mind-reading exercises themselves? What are some of the things he has people trying?
Well, he starts with, the basics. One of his beginner exercises is he has the receiver blindfolded, and they're trying to sense the mental urge of the transmitter to, say, walk towards a specific corner of the room.
Oh man, I can just picture people stumbling around their living rooms, bumping into furniture, all in the name of mind reading.
I wouldn't be surprised if there were a few mishaps along the way. But it's interesting from a more modern perspective. It's that, without realizing it, Atkinson might be tapping into the power of suggestion and the placebo effect. Remember, these were concepts that weren't really fully understood back in 1907.
So someone might have genuinely believed they were being mentally guided to that corner, even if it was all just a subconscious response to, I don't know, some subtle cues from their partner.
Precisely. The power of belief, of expectation,
Yeah.
it can have a very real impact on our perceptions and our actions.
Yeah.
Even today, we see this with the placebo effect, where people experience real measurable improvements in their health simply because they believe they're receiving a treatment, even if it's just a sugar pill.
It's crazy how powerful the mind is, that it can actually have that much influence over our physical experiences. But Atkinson, he didn't stop there, right? He didn't stop with the simple exercises. He takes things a step further with, feats that sound a lot like what you'd see a stage magician pull off today.
Yeah, you're totally right. Those more elaborate mind-reading feats, they do sound like something you'd see on stage today.
And that's really important to keep in mind because remember the early 20th century, it was like a golden age for magic and illusion, right?
Oh, totally. Performers like Harry Houdini were huge back then.
Exactly. Houdini and others, they were captivating audiences with these incredible feats, these seemingly impossible feats.
So it's safe to say Atkinson was operating in a world where people were already, I don't know, primed to believe in the extraordinary. Absolutely. This was a time when entertainment and this exploration of the unknown, they often went hand in hand.
So did Atkinson present these more elaborate mind-reading acts as, genuine telepathy, or was there a bit of a wink and a nod to the world of entertainment?
Yeah, it's tough to say for sure. I mean, his writing, it suggests that he really truly believed in the possibility of these higher phenomena, as he called them.
Higher phenomena. Okay, you've got to tell me more about these higher phenomena. What kind of next-level mind-reading feats did Atkinson have in store?
Well, imagine this, trying to transmit thoughts across continents.
Whoa, no way.
That was the kind of ambition fueling these explorations.
That's wild.
We're back mind-to-mind communication without any kind of physical contact at all, like defying distance and just conventional understanding.
It's like something straight out of science fiction.
It really is. Atkinson really pushed the boundaries of what he believed the mind could achieve.
But how did he even begin to explain how something like that could even be possible? I mean, did he have any scientific theories to back up these claims, or was he kind of getting into the realm of pure speculation here.
Well, he did try to ground these ideas in the scientific understanding of the time. For example, he was very intrigued by the pineal gland, that small pine cone-shaped structure located deep within the brain.
Wait, the pineal gland, doesn't that have something to do with our sleep cycle?
Exactly. That's what we know today, right? The
Hmm.
pineal gland, it plays a crucial role in regulating our sleep-wake cycles by producing melatonin. But Atkinson, with the limited knowledge available back then, he had much more, let's just say, ambitious view of its purpose.
Okay, let me guess. He thought it was our built-in telepathy antenna.
You got it. He believed the pineal gland was like this receiver for thought vibrations,
Hmm.
allowing us to tap into this universal mind. It's definitely a concept that might seem a little outlandish now, but you have to remember, this is a time when the inner workings of the brain were still a complete mystery.
So he was trying to like connect the dots with what little information he had.
Exactly. And while his conclusions might seem a bit far-fetched to us today, you can't deny the ingenuity and the creativity of his thinking.
It's amazing how these old ideas about the brain, even though they might not be entirely accurate, can still really capture our imagination and make us think about, the vast potential of the human mind.
It speaks to that enduring human fascination with the mysteries of the mind. Even with all that we've learned about the brain, there's still so much that we don't know about consciousness perception and the true limits of human potential.
So much left to explore. It's exciting.
It really is.
Well, we've journeyed back to 1907, explored Atkinson's practical mind reading, and encountered both the scientific curiosity and, let's be honest, some pretty wild speculation of that era.
It was a wild time for sure.
But I guess the takeaway for our listeners is
Atkinson's work, it reminds us that the pursuit of knowledge, it's an ongoing process. What might seem revolutionary or even outlandish in one era can often lay the groundwork for groundbreaking discoveries in the next.
it's like standing on the shoulders of giants, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
building upon the work of those who came before us.
And sometimes it's the questions that persist even across centuries that really push us to understand ourselves and the world around us.
Absolutely. Those unanswered questions, they keep us curious. They drive us to explore further.
It's like Atkinson with his fascination for telepathy. He might have been onto something.
Who knows, maybe with our modern understanding of neuroscience and psychology, we might uncover new ways of communication that we haven't even dreamt of yet.
The possibilities are endless. So what do you think, listeners? Have you ever had an experience that's made you wonder about mind reading, or maybe you felt a connection with someone that was so strong it felt like it transcended words? Let us know your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, stay curious.